My name is Emily Mercer. I am the project manager for Advance-RI-CTR's pilot project program and professional development program. We are very happy to have Ximena Levy here from the Division of Research. She's the Director of Regulatory Advising and in the Office of Research Integrity. She's going to be going through her slides, but we are going to start with a Kahoot. So you will see the Kahoot pin is on the screen, and there is a link in the chat for you to click on to join. You will be seeing the colors of the answers on your end, not the answers themselves. So to select your choice, you will be clicking on the color that corresponds to what you're seeing on the screen. And then we will get into some more slides on using ClinicalTrials.gov, and we will bounce back to the Kahoot a few times throughout the presentation as well. Thank you so much. And you can put any questions you have in the chat and we'll be answering them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Welcome everyone. I'm really excited about this webinar. I hope we can solve some of the questions that you may have. That we will do that at the end. I included the Kahoot since the topic is a little bit dense and intense. So let's try to do it. We'll see how that works because I will stop the presentation at some point in the middle to ask some questions. So bear with me between changing the screens and all of that. But I'm really excited to be here. And I'm going to start this Kahoot just to see how it works and if it is working. This is the first question, so called. I have registered studies in ClinicalTrials.gov. You guys can answer that. Emily, I'm not seeing the answers here. I don't know if I have to stop sharing this screen for a second. So remember, the question is, I have registered studies in ct.gov. So I'm going to see. For some reason, it's not showing me. Okay, we have, sharing again, we have 23 yes, 5 no's, 6 no's. Okay, so it worked. So I know how to do this now. Here it is. Here are the answers. Okay, 58% of you have registered studies in ClinicalTrials.gov and 42 of you are new. Great. Okay, so we're going to start doing this. As Emily mentioned, thank you so much, Emily, for the introduction. My name is Ximena Levy. I'm the Director of Regulatory at the Regulatory Advisory Unit in the Division of Research. A little bit of my background. I'm a physician by background, but I've been in research for 25 years. I've been a director of clinical research sites in one university and a private research site. And I'm passionate about regulatory, protection of human subjects, and translational sciences. Our team we're 4 people. Alison Fisher, she's a regulatory advisor. Alison was before in the School of Public Health. Carlos Gallo, he comes from a clinical trials.
For one second. It looks like we are seeing your presenter view right now.
I see.
Earlier it wasn't on the presenter view, so if you just want to try opening it again.
Thank you for, again, here it is. Okay, now I have to see. Thank you, Emily, for that, because changing the screens between the Kahoot and that. So Alison Fisher, Carlos Gallo, Ximena Levy, that's me, and Christine Wallace, who was in the IRB before, in the IRB office before. Now she is in the Regulatory Advisory Unit. We are a group of experts. We have been in protection of human subjects for a long time, so we are happy to be helping researchers from this side of the business. We are not in the IRB. We are not the IRB office. We are a separate unit, but most of our job is to support researchers to submit to the IRB. We also provide support in ClinicalTrials.gov, clearance of projects for undergrad research studies, and anything related with regulatory. So we are happy to be here, and we are happy to help. Second. So the goals mainly are to go over a little bit an overview of ClinicalTrials.gov, how to register a study, what are the key regulatory elements of this platform, what is the process to create an account, to register, and to update records. And most of all, what I really want to do in this presentation today is to go over common issues that we have and that we see every day. The process of ClinicalTrials.gov implies that the researcher registered the study, and then the Brown administrators, were 4 Brown administrators. One of us approves the registration to be released to go for review. So that's why we know what are the more common mistakes that we make, and I will be happy to go over them. So what is ClinicalTrials.gov? It's a public database of clinical studies worldwide. So every clinical trial, by definition, should be registered in ClinicalTrials.gov. It's maintained by the US National Library, is required for transparency and compliance. And really, and being in a clinical research site, I can say that it was a powerful tool for recruitment. People look, the general population, they look at ClinicalTrials.gov, so enables participant recruitment and dissemination of results. So it's a very powerful tool. It is a little bit cumbersome. It is a little bit complicated, and sometimes registration takes time, a lot of time, but it is a very useful tool. So what studies should be registered in ClinicalTrials.gov? Applicable clinical trials, what are those? Applicable clinical trials are FDA-regulated studies from phase 2 to phase 4. Phase 1 studies are not required to be registered. Anything related, FDA-regulated studies for drug, devices, or biologics should be registered in ClinicalTrials.gov. That's what ACT means. Those must be registered. What other studies should be registered? NIH-funded clinical trials, and I don't want to go over the definition, discussions on the definition of what NIH defines as a clinical trial, but if at the time of award, your program officer tells you this study is clinical trial, then it needs to be registered. It's in particular with behavioral outcomes and with behavioral interventions, there is not a completely full agreement on when a study is a clinical trial or not. Go by the word of your program officer. They will tell you this is a clinical trial, or the committee or the panel decided this is a clinical trial. So yes, but anyways, for clinical trials, it is defined as any study where subjects are prospectively assigned to one or more interventions to measure a health-related, biomedical, or behavioral outcome. So if it's any of those words in your study, then that's a clinical trial. And then studies that meet the ICMG publication requirements. So most of the journals require clinical trials to be registered in the platform. So that's another requirement. Consider that if your goal is to publish in a medical journal, so consider you register the study. It should be registered in ClinicalTrials.gov. Where are we at Brown? And I really, really need your help. I know some of you are administrative staff or faculty that help researchers to do and enter information, but I really need your help with the current status of the registration. We have 297 records registered in the platform under Brown, but I have 70 problem records at this moment. Multiple issues, entries not completed, records haven't been updated, late results. So I really need, and I've been sending emails to the PIs asking to please update the record. So I hope after this talk, if some of you have records in ClinicalTrials.gov, please go and check that your record is updated and that everything is on time. So we have 34 that the entries have not been completed. So I can't do anything on those until you click entry completed. It doesn't move to the next level. So please help me with this. Key timelines, and this is very important. Registration deadline should be no later than 21 days after the first participant is registered. So that's it, no later than 21 days. Reporting of results should be entered within 12 months of primary completion date. That is 12 months. And updates on changes on the investigator, protocol amendments, anything that changes in the protocol should be reported or entered in the platform within 30 days of the changes. How to register? I'm not going to go to that. We have in the web page, Division of Research, and you know the web page now is a little bit different, but I will say Google PRS, ClinicalTrials.gov, registration at Brown. It will show you, it will give you the steps. But in summary, the way to get your account is emailing us at regulatoryadvising@brown.edu. This will give you the instructions on what I need. I need your name, the name of the PI, the title of the study, the IRB approval letter, and other items. Those items are listed there. So that is the process. In Brown, the process to obtain a PRS account to register in ClinicalTrials.gov is to email us. You email us, and we will guide you through the process. That's if you don't have an account. Okay, so let's go out of here and let's move with the next question in Kahoot to see how we are doing. If anyone has questions now. Let's see.
So Ximena, I did think we do have a question about if you could reshare the Kahoot PIN number as well when you open up Kahoot.
Okay, let me see. I don't promise I can do it, but let me see. Hold on a second. Let me see. Because I think if I exit this, here it is. Please, hold on. Let me share the others. You are not seeing the Kahoot, no. Let me share the Kahoot screen. Okay, the PIN is here, 748274. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Here we go. Oh no, hold on. No, that is not the question. I want to. Oh, sorry. That's for later. What is? Okay, here it is. This is the next question. The deadline to register a study is no later than 21 days after the study is awarded, no later than 21 days after enrollment of the first participant, 90 days after first participant enrollment or during the first year of the study. Okay, we are done. Yes, that's the answer. No later than 21 days after enrollment of the first participant. Good, let's do one more. One of the purposes of ClinicalTrials.gov is increase funding opportunities, obtain FDA approval of new drugs, make our jobs more interesting by adding an extra layer of challenge, or to enhance patient enrollment and to track the progress of the trial. Good job, exactly. That's what it is. That's one of the purposes. Good job. Okay, let's see. The process to create an account in the PRS system for Brown researchers requires fill out a formulary in CT.gov, delegate a student to create the PI account, email regulatory advisory at brown.edu, or do not. 6 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Email regulatory advisory. You don't fill out the form. We will help you. First of all, you need to email us. And then after that, we, the administrators, we create the account. So for those that said fill out the formulary, that's not the right answer. The right answer is email us at regulatory-advisory@brown.edu. I think the deadline for entering results is no later than 12 months after the study primary completion's date. True or false? 12 months after the study's primary completion date. Okay, true. That's true. That's the no later than 12 months. If it's 12 months and 1 day, we get an alert, we get a flag, late results, and we will go later over what happens there. Okay, so let me go back to the slides. Share again. Let me to screen 2. Share, and I'm going to put it in full. Okay, so for those of you, once you create the account, the name of the institution that when they are asked for the organization is Brown MC. That's how you log in. You will get your username. We will provide that and the password, and that's how you log in the system. So I'm not going to go over any other aspects of the registration of the studies because I want to talk on what are the most common mistakes. So missing incomplete fields. You will get a tons of errors. Everything has to be completed. Mandatory fields are mandatory, so there is no way around that. Sponsor information is important. If you have doubts on what is the, who's the sponsor for ClinicalTrials.gov, sponsor is, the funding agency is NIH, but the sponsor is Brown. So there are definitions for that. If you are not sure what to answer there, look for the definition in ClinicalTrials.gov. If not, you can ask us and we will help you. Inconsistent terms, that's a big problem. We will go over some examples of that. Precise language, incorrect study sections, study description. We have a lot of issues with that. I will show you some examples, but be clear at the time of register the study on what are your arms, what are your interventions, what is your study design. If you think, and I think one of my takeaways for today is you have to start with the end in mind. Like this philosophy of Cody. start with the end in mind, because the way that you are registered a study and every parameter that you are giving now, when you enter your results, you are going to have those issues. If the study design is not clear at the time of registering the study, then you are going to suffer with the results. So start thinking with the end of mind. How are you going to fill out those results? Okay, once you register the study, you will get a screen like this. 0 errors, warning, notes. Errors, if you have errors, it doesn't let you move. You need to fix your errors. It will tell you where the error is. If you don't know or you don't know how to answer or how to fix that error, come to us and we will help you. Warnings, they may let you move without fixing it. And there is one specific warning that is very common, and we see it all the time, that's okay. If your study is not an FDA-regulated study, and in this question, they ask if it's an FDA-regulated product, you can answer no. It will give you a warning, and the warning is that if it is unusual for both FDA-regulated drug and FDA devices to be known when there is at least one US location and an intervention type of drug, device, radiation. So this question, if you are not doing an FDA-regulated study, it's okay. If you answer no, you will get that warning, and that's okay. That's fine. Okay, and study description. One thing that is very common, and it will come back to us if you do not use personal pronouns. This is an example. We, the investigators, we're going to measure, we're going to do, you will be doing that. They don't want that. They want everything be explained in third person. So remove any personal pronouns for the description of your study. Super important. Outcome measures, that is when we have most of the problems. Again, if you have your design clear and you know what you are measuring, try to be consistent over all the registration. If you are going to measure the change of something, so in this example, right? So they were measuring minutes of physical activity, weight by intensity, expressing metabolic, determined, that doesn't matter at this point. But the point is that the primary outcome were minutes of physical activity. What they wanted to measure, and then the comment from the PRA's reviewer was the time frame includes more than one time point, baseline, post-treatment, 6 months. And the description of the outcome is telling us we're going to measure minutes. What was the fix of this error was to refer to the outcome as change in accelerometry. Different to measuring accelerometry to change in accelerometry, what defines what you are measuring in 3 times, because you are measuring the change. Okay, another example. Let's say we're measuring attentional bias, and the measure is mean difference between reaction time and versus the other intervention. So the comment, again, the time frame is super important, because the comment of the reviewer was the time frame was presented as assessed at laboratory session 1 and 2. What they are saying is the time frame is not specific. And I will tell you a little bit about this. So what the fix of this was to divide attentional bias objective, session 1, time frame is laboratory session 1, approximately 1 week after baseline. So this is the way that they want it to be presented. So when you give them the time frame, it has, if you are measuring change, time frame should reflect change. If you are measuring 1 point, the time frame should reflect 1 point. I hope that's clear. If it's not clear, we can go back over that. Another example, and this is another point with registering the study. They will ask you for the definition of the variable, right? And the unit of measure. and also a description of the outcome. So if you are describing, if your outcome is a score, a scale, give them the ranges. The score, this score means 0 is worst or 100 is better. The range is 0 to 100. Give them that explanation. This is a very, very, very common issue of returning the study to us. So always explain what the scale is and what is the range of the scale. Here is this one, quality of life, QLQC30. If reporting a score on a scale, please include the unabbreviated scale title. They want that, they don't want abbreviations. The minimum and maximum values and whether higher scores mean better or worse. One of my recommendations is always, you can go in ClinicalTrials.gov, studies that have results, go there and see what they have. You can look for the terms, something similar to your study, and then you can see how that was presented. If it's published and it's public, means it was approved. So keep that in mind. You can always go back and look at that. Okay, that's for registering the study. Be consistent, be clear about the time frames, describe your variables, describe your outcomes, and make sure that they are consistent. There is consistency between the name of the variable and the description. Okay, so now we're going to move maintaining a record. As we said, maintaining a record, changes should be done 30 days, no more than 30 days after the change has been done. The study status, IRB approvals, IRB changes, dates on the documents. If you are uploading a new consent form because it was approved by the IRB, make sure that the date in the document matches the date, the field date that they give you when you upload the document. That's also important. I don't have an example of that, but that happens very often. Always have your records ready. We can be audited at any time. So keep your records ready for an audit. It could be internal, it could be FDA, it could be the agency, anyone can come and audit. So keep your records always ready for an audit. Consistency is super important. The patient flow and the results, that's also an issue, but I will go back to that. Dates started, completed, dropout, you have to keep those numbers precise. Changes in institution, changes in PI, change in primary site, all of that has to be reported on time. I had another Kahoot, but I'm afraid that I don't have time. So one way to think about ClinicalTrials.gov is that they are very concrete thinking. This plus this is this. That is literal. Specific details. Nothing is imaginary. Nothing is can be left to the public to assume or to make suppositions. It is a very, very complete, simple place to describe the studies. So always do your mind on that. Like we tend to do explanations, and we tend to go to the, like when we write a grant, we're thinking and explaining and proving and giving our hypothesis. That's not what they want. In ClinicalTrials.gov, they want concrete information, very concrete, nothing for the imagination. This is a guide from University of Texas. They said that result reported may take up to 50 hours, and I think that is an average, but it could be longer than that. So plan with time, because it takes time to enter your results. It takes time, and it takes several iterations. Records are returned several times before the record is published and released to the public. So the average time for them to review it is 30 days. So plan accordingly and plan with your with these time frames in mind. This is with the participant flow, I mentioned that before. The patients enrolled are the patients that signed consent and started the study. If you have one patient that signed consent but didn't do the rest of the study, then that you have an option where you say like number of patients analyzed, you can put that there. But if you screen 3 patients, 4 patients, and they screen failed, so they were not enrolled. Protocol enrollment refers to patients that were enrolled in the study and have data, completed baseline, and that it is. For clinical trials, most of the time we have that screening part. Once they may have been screened and they were consented, but if they weren't randomized, then that can be explained later. But participant flow refers to the number of patients that were participants that were enrolled, meaning participants that signed consent. There's a little bit tricky with crossover studies. There are several examples. Go back to ClinicalTrials.gov and look for those studies. But what they want is the number of patients. Keeping the end in mind, when you are going to fill out your results at the end, you have to make sure that you are explaining that those patients were in this arm and then they cross over to the other arm. So at the end, you have the results table have to reflect the number of patients that were enrolled. If you have dropouts or you have withdrawals, then there is an option here when you can explain that. But all those numbers have to add up. This is an example, a study crossover 2 arms, the drug arm and placebo, 15 patients enrolled. At the time of entering the results, 50 patients were in the drug arm and 15 patients were in the placebo arm. So keep this in mind, especially for crossover studies. It's a little bit challenging. And if you have 3 arms, it gets more complicated. But that's remember, concrete thinking, how many patients you have in each arm. Other examples of outcomes and issues, let's say for this one, the researcher was measuring other adherence to NRT. Again, we have problems with the time frame or the unit of measure. I'm going to spend a little bit of time in that unit of measure because that is another common issue. So for this one in particular, time frame, unit of measure inconsistent. So let's see what happened. They were measuring adherence to NRT. We're saying percent days use nicotine replacement therapy in past 8 weeks. And then the time frame is week 12. Concrete thinking, I'm measuring percent days in past 8 weeks, but then the time frame is 12. So the fix for that was that, and then, hold on, before I mention the fix, and then we're saying the unit of measure is days. Okay, percent days, 8 weeks, week 12, units of measure days. So this is the fix for that in particular. So we changed percent for number, which then matches the unit of measure, number of days, and we're saying the unit that we're measuring are days. So then there is consistency between the description of the variable and the unit of measure. And then the time frame, the PI fixed this, saying during the 8 weeks of provision, but at the end, the measurement was done at week 12. All right. So this is how we fix it. And you can see now that it is more consistent. Another one, subject pain level. This is what I was saying. They ask you if it's a score or a scale please include the unabbreviated scale title, the minimum and maximum, and whether higher scores mean a better or worse outcome. So same thing, the unit of measure for this one was a score on a scale. Yeah, that's fine, but they needed the description. So this is how it was fixed. Long name, the unabbreviated name of the scale, and then we're saying pain level 0 to 10 worst possible. Okay. Other example, same thing. The unit of measure, there are several options. It depends, and that is up to your study. Whatever you're measuring, fine. We're not discussing the science, but it has to be clear what is that what you want to measure. Let's say for this one, plasma concentration, they are measuring that. The explanation of what this outcome is measuring is concentration of plasma in nanograms per milliliter. So that's the unit. That is the unit. If we're measuring blood pressure, millimeters of mercury, that's the unit. Number of patients, the unit of that is patients. Percentage of participants, what is the unit? Participants. So keep that in mind. Very, very concrete answers. Number of participants, here it is. What we want is count of participants. Number, if we're measuring this one, percentage of participants, we are measuring number. Unit of measure is percentage of participants. Here it is an example of enrollment, protocol enrollment 52, started participant flow 49, it was returned to us. They said, like, how come is 52, is 49? At the end, this particular study analyzed data for 49 patients that were the patients that were enrolled in the study. So the correct answer was 49. So we fixed that, and then everything was matched up with 49. This is another requirement from the bottom of my heart. Please, please click entry complete. If you don't click entry complete, this is the way that I see it. In progress, if you don't click entry complete, I don't get anything. I don't know where they are. So it will stay there forever. And we have a significant number of studies with this entry complete stage. So it needs to be completed within the timeframes. What happens if we are in non-compliance with ClinicalTrials.gov? There's knock on wood. Monetary penalties, that is, and is real, it happens, they will penalize the institution. Warning letters, disqualification and enforcement actions, it really hurts the reputation of the institution and the investigator. NIH studies without registration, it really, really risks the funding. So there are real. So there is an example of a recent letter, March 14, 2025, and the monetary penalty usually is $10,000 a day for the days that we are in not compliance. So it is real, it happens, and it starts counting, and the days count until the issue is resolved. It cannot be more than 10,000. I think I read somewhere that it's 12,000 now, but again, it is per day. So keep an eye on that. It is really important. Takeaways from this talk, I think, start with the end in mind. Figure when you are registering your study, start thinking how you're going to enter your results. Key timelines, 21 days, 12 months, 30 days. You know what those days mean. And be concrete and consistent. I'm sorry for the typo there. But I think those are my main takeaways today. Again, please click entry complete. I need that. If you don't do that one, once again, this is how it shows. So I can't approve until you complete the entry of the record. Okay, let's open the floor for questions. Emily?
Great. So we had one question come through during the chat, during the presentation. The question was to confirm, based on the definition shared, a pilot acceptability feasibility intervention. Example, all participants are exposed to a behavioral intervention to evaluate feasibility and acceptability prior to a larger trial would still be a clinical trial.
I will say no. It depends on the funding agency. If even phase 1 clinical FDA-regulated clinical trials are not registered in ClinicalTrials.gov, if it's an NIH-funded study, its feasibility and acceptability, I will say no, but I will always confirm with the program officer. They have the last word. That will be coming from them.
Great. I don't see any other questions in the chat yet. If anyone has any additional questions that they would like to ask, please put them in the chat and we'll pass them along to Ximena to share here.
That's it.
I'm not seeing anything at the moment. Of course, we do have Ximena's email address and we can share that with the recording as well. Oh, we do have one more question. The guidance for outcomes says not to include vague things like feasibility. What kind of things can we do instead?
Can you read the question again, Emily, please?
What was that? Sorry.
Can you say the question again?
Yep. The guidance for outcomes says not to include vague things like feasibility. What kind of things can we do instead?
It depends. I will say it will be part of your study. If you are assessing, let's say, I don't know, acceptability of a device, right? I will use that term, like acceptability. The outcome will be acceptability of the device. That will be a scale, I will think. It depends on what it is, the feasibility of what, but that's a good example of what they don't want, definitely. So it will be important if definitely the result is feasibility, meaning you want to do, you can do something or not. It will be a way to worden it and it will be in a case by case, but in general, that's what they don't want. You are right. So this is our email, regulatoryadvisory@brown.edu. We have a very easy system to schedule appointments with us. It takes, in our web page, let me see if I can stop sharing this on other screen. In our web page, Regulatory Advisory Unit, if you go down, scroll down, we have our Google, there is this link to Google Calendar. You only have to click here. And it shows you dates that we have available. It will ask you a couple of questions before scheduling the meeting, but that's it. Once you click here, you can schedule the meeting. We get it and we send you the link to the Zoom to meet with us. So it's a very easy system to schedule. Even if you have a question and you prefer to talk to someone, you can use this definitely to go over anything. There are no bad questions.
We do have actually another question. Am I hearing correctly that trials in phase 1 do not necessarily need to be registered and that it depends on the funding agency?
Correct. Yes, that is correct. I will always check, but yes, it is correct.
Great. And then we had a couple questions from URI investigators, but I will follow up with them separately via email. about URI specific questions.
Okay.
All right, and I think that that is the last question for now. Thank you again, everyone, for attending, and of course, thank you, Ximena, for such a great presentation. We will be putting the recording on our YouTube channel, and it will be shared in our Advance-CTR newsletter as well. If you're not subscribed, we do highly recommend that you do. And we do just ask that you please take the evaluation that will pop up when you are done with this webinar. It helps us to really see what offerings to continue offering, what offerings we might want to add in the future and things like that. So we would really appreciate that. Otherwise, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. And the link for our appointments, go to the Google Division of Research, Regulatory Advisory Unit Brown. At the end, there is the link to our calendar so you can schedule the meetings there. Thank you, Emily, so much. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this.